Hello there, Dr. Samantha Durland here, and I know it's Thursday instead of Wednesday Facebook Live. The girls are busy up front, so I thought I'm just going to try to do this myself and sneak it in. And I'm sorry for my close view and the fact that I hope my iPad doesn't flip out of the case right now in this near future. And so, but I just want to say hi and talk about what I was going to talk about yesterday. You know, life's an adventure and you never know what the day brings. And yesterday at Facebook Live, I had a patient that just needed to talk for a little bit longer. So, of course, I wanted to give that time to her to share her experience. And so we're going to do it today instead. And so, and I wanted to also mention that tomorrow on my drive to Iowa, you know, talking about sexual talk on Friday morning in the dark when the sun comes up, I was going to specifically talk about oral sex and herpes of the face, because what else would we talk about on a Friday morning? That is awesome. And that is actually a really kind of interesting topic to talk about, and I feel like a lot of people want to know stuff, so there we go. And then the first thing before I talk about insulin resistance today, what I want to talk about is just like belonging, because you know, in the office every day there's people and they'll talk about certain concepts that really resonate, and so I just feel like the world is talking, we talk to each other and we tell people what they needed to hear, and so if it resonated with me, I just want to pass it on because hopefully it helps resonate with other people. And so really it was like this sense of community and needing to belong. And so when we were talking, she was talking about how when she was younger, she was taller and very thin, and people had bigger hair, and people had issues with that, and how that made her feel super self-conscious. And so really it brought up this other thought to mind that I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I never really thought about that. And when we're teens and when we're in middle school or high school, how we all just want the same thing. You know, we all want to belong, but how scared we are to be ourselves. And we're scared to be different. And really, as I age, it's really one of the I guess it is a struggle that I've had, but I feel kind of like I'm like, well, dude, just be yourself, right? We all belong is the principle, and we kind of have to feel like we don't belong to realize that we already did. And I never thought when I was younger that, you know, it's like when you fall outside whatever normal is, and I still struggle to define normal because I think it's nothing. I don't even know what perfection is. There is no perfect. The thing is that we're all perfectly imperfect is the thing. But when I was younger, I'd always want to be this or want to be that. So when you look around, look how different we are. And then know that when you feel different, you have nobody else to compare it to. And so oftentimes it's very isolating. So if people have red hair and they want black hair, then they may always feel different because they have red hair. Red hair is freaking cool. And if you happen to not have as much muscle mass and you're tall and slender with hair that's very robust and beautiful, you'd feel different. But you know what? That robust hair freaking rocks, and you being a little taller is amazing, because me being a Smurf totally love that you could be taller. And my muscles are more like short and so I can lift heavy weights, but gosh, love it. Don't ask me to walk down a runway. It's not a good thing. So that being said, you know, I think we all have that element of being different, but that's the point. We are. So, and then, and we have I think like a society stereotype that we think certain populations feel more out of sorts than others. But it really brought this kind of concept to home that I'm like, but maybe we all feel that at some point in time. And sometimes we might say something to somebody like, oh my gosh, you're so tall, or blah, blah, blah. But it's really because we're either insecure in ourselves, or it's because we really want that person to be our friend and we don't know what else to say. So, anyway, I just thought that was an interesting concept. So the other thing we're going to talk about today is insulin resistance, because there's like the majority of people in the world are actually insulin resistant. I find that very cool because, it's not very cool, but it's a place that you can talk about and have a lot of difference for people and make a high yield change. So, I'm just going to kind of speak about how I talk to patients about this particular subject, and hopefully it helps some people. And if you know somebody it might help, you could pass it on to them. Okay, so here we go. And I have I love seeing my hands. I love seeing what happens as we talk, because then I'm a very animated person and it's kind of fun. Okay, all right, so insulin resistance. So how do I evaluate for that? Or first of all, how does that feel? Well, sometimes it feels like the Snickers bar commercial where people get like hangry and then they eat sugar and they're like, oh, I feel calm. Well, the point is you should never feel like you live in a Snickers bar commercial. You should feel like you're just on cruise control and every day you feel pretty good with stable metabolic energy. That would help you feel better. And one of the things I love to tell people I love to do is I love to help them find energy in their body. Because if you put energy back into the body, the person driving it, who is you and who's me driving my body, feels more peaceful. And then I get to choose what I do with the energy that's left behind, which makes me feel more positive. So it's good. So dealing with people's insulin resistance helps them feel better emotionally because it gives them more energy and efficiency. The way that I also kind of equate this is if you and I were driving to a nearby city, and I'm on cruise control, but you have the water in the gasoline of your engine because you're insulin resistant. We are driving the exact same distance, but when you get to our destination, I actually on cruise control will make it there faster, and I have more energy at the end because I wasn't sputtering the whole way. Because if you're sputtering the whole way, you're sweaty, you're tired, you're and you need to rest before you go on with your day. So again, we've gone the exact same distance, but I on cruise control are going to be more efficient. So when you are more efficient with insulin and with glucose, you actually return energy into the system. So that's kind of the analogy I like to make. So there's 3 ways to help modulate insulin resistance in people. It's how you eat, how you move, and medicine and or supplements. And I never think that a medicine is better than a supplement or a supplement's better than a medicine. I just want an effective plan. And we all metabolize different. We all function different. Our lives are different. Our acceptance of things are different. So what I like to do is sit down, talk about the principle, and then we mold a customized plan to the person I'm talking to because it's right for you, and what's right for your friend could be totally different. We're alike in that we're human, but we're different and we're individuals. So we need to understand the principle, but how we apply it can be varied from person to person. So if I'm going to do like, besides knowing how I feel, and I'm a big listen to your body type of girl, the next thing that you always want to do too is that there's blood tests that you could do. So on a blood test, what am I looking at? Well, there's chronic markers of glucose resistance, and then there's acute markers of glucose resistance. And so an acute marker would be looking at my frank insulin level or my glucose level. A chronic marker would be looking at my hemoglobin A1C. So hemoglobin are your red blood cells, and A1C is sugar, and sugar sticks to hemoglobin. So if your glucose is elevated, then your red blood cells will show that it's been sticking to it. And red blood cells live for 90 days. So looking at your hemoglobin A1C gives you a reference point for what that patient's glycemic control has been over for the 3 months prior to that point in time. So our body is super great at loving the person within, and it doesn't want to malfunction really at all. So before it gets to frank diabetes, there have been years of dysfunction prior to that point in time that your body's been hiding. And my argument with folks is why I would start treating people for insulin resistance and motivating and helping them with that before they get to diabetes is because when you're healthy, it's here. When you have a little insulin resistance, it's here. But when you have diabetes, it's over here. So it's not so far to go from here to here. It takes less energy. But if you have to go from here to here, it's harder. So I don't want to make it harder than it needs to be. If I can see it's happening and I know it's taking energy from the one within, then we talk about, let's stick it back together. We don't have so far to go. That's just so much easier to me, right? The other thing too to know is that your body can, sometimes your markers won't show anything, but you feel this way because you'll feel it before you can actually see it. All right. So, and the other thing too that happens is once your glucose dysfunction gets all the way over here, a lot of times you have a lot of sugar cravings, and those just rule your mind. And sugar cravings take a lot of energy to push against. So if you don't have energy because you're giving all this inefficiency away, and then I look at a person and I say, you know what, I would love you to eat better and move more, they'll be like, okay, I'll do it. And then they'll go home and they have a lot of difficulty executing that plan because those sugar cravings are going to return, and they want to do a good job, but then they get back into that hustle and bustle of life and it's hard to execute. So one of the things I also like to do when I sit down to talk to folks is I love to help them understand and give them energy first. And then after you give them that energy first, help teach them diet and exercise and how that really is, because a lot of us have a lot of emotion wrapped up about food. And this is not a process that takes like a month or 2 months or 3 months. This is actually a process that takes a while, because when you're helping someone with lifestyle change, they have to have some lifestyle challenge hit them to go backwards. And then they're like, oh, I did it again. I'm like, that's okay. That's okay. That's like, it's just a habit that you're resorting to because you got tired. No big deal. You're human. So what did we do last time? And so we go back and we learn again, because each time we reset, we're going to learn a little different tool. And then we get faith that even if we jumped off the wheel, you can get right back on. Like, this is okay. Don't condemn yourself. Don't feel bad. And so in each challenge that you make it through, a little something new is going to stick that next time. So it's not like you have to be like perfect overnight. Our body's not about perfection. It's about persistence, about doing pretty much the best right thing. Cheat a little bit, laugh a little bit. I mean, our body's actually built for health, and it's super, super straightforward, I believe, and super simple. So anyway, so back to this glucose resistance. I'm going to draw a little piece of paper, and then hopefully I practice flashing it in front. Okay, so another patient that I saw today had polycystic ovaries. And so polycystic ovaries is kind of insulin resistance earlier on in my mind. And but it's somebody that's had that since they were little. And sometimes you don't even know you have it. But anyway, those folks, you look at their hemoglobin A1C, and again, hemoglobin lives for 90 days. It's your red blood cells, and A1C is sugar, and sugar sticks to hemoglobin, and that lets you know what your A1. But people with a lot of hypoglycemia actually have a low A1C, and so when I see a low A1C, I'm like, they do not feel good. I know they don't feel good, and I don't clap because I'm excited that they don't feel good. I clap because I'm like, oh, we totally can make that better, and that's a point of place that we can help that person find energy, and I know they're going to feel so much better, which is exciting to be a part of that person's life. So how I graph out A1C when it first starts out is, so what happens with our A1C is at first you go up in glucose a little bit, and then you fall down, and then you go up a little bit of glucose, and then you fall down. And then over time, what happens is you start going like this, and then you start going like this. Sorry about my artist work. Amy's so much better than I am. So what happens is, at first when you're checking people out, their A1C, which is this area over the curve, is little. But it's little because they're spending so much time under here. But still, every time you go from here to here, you're giving energy. That makes you tired. So you are losing just as much energy here as you are here, because it's not about being on top of the curve or underneath the curve. That's just a lab value. Every time you go from the bottom to the top, it takes your energy, right? So people over here feel really bad, just like people over here, even though the further down the curve you get, if you start feeling more puffy and your joints can hurt more and stuff like that. So the key is you just want to be like this. You want little ones. This is cruise control, right? Oh, kind of. I'm a horrible artist, and this is upside down. It's not good. But anyway, hopefully you get the premise. Okay, so that being said, with how you eat, how you move, and medicine or supplements, the goal is to bring that curve a little bit more narrow. And when you only go from here to here, you're giving less energy away. And giving less energy away gives energy back to the person within. And then you have that energy for your relationships. You have that energy to sleep better. You have that energy to exercise if you want to. And when we say we'd love you to eat like a breastfed cave girl or cave guy, you have the energy to be like, what the heck does that mean? Like, how do I learn food? Learning food can be so challenging, but it really is never meant to be that hard. Again, we evolved in a cave. We just ate whole foods. We just eat whole foods. And we ate meats, vegetables, occasional fruits, and occasionally stopped to bake. That's just a rule book that I go to. And a lot of times I'll sit down and go over like a little bit different dietary plan with people, but I just try to kind of customize it to them where they're not eating a food allergen or a food sensitivity. If they're on the go, the last thing I'm going to do is make them meal prep all the time because they're not going to sustain that. I try to find easy snacks in between to help them like manage that. And you just got to meet people in the middle where they're at. So anyway, I just want to bring up the fact today that insulin resistance and glucose resistance takes energy from you. And a lot of us are resistant. And it's how you eat, how you move, and medicine and our supplements. So how do you eat? Frequent small meals of low glycemic load. And that just means you eat like pretty regularly foods that don't spike your insulin. Number 2, you move. Don't make it hard. Start with 10,000 steps a day. When you achieve that, add a couple hours or a couple days of weightlifting in that. And after that, let's go further. But let's just start with the basics first, and then we'll move up from there. We evolved in a cave, lifting rocks, moving around in circles in the dirt, so don't make this too hard on yourself. If we've outlived the dinosaurs, it can't be too complicated, and our body's already well, and it's rocking awesome. So we should exploit that because it's our best friend. And let's see here. What's the other? And medicine or supplements. So some people, medicine just doesn't make them feel good. Cool. Supplements work for them. Awesome. And sometimes supplements aren't strong enough for some people. Okay. You just got to do what works. And so I'm a big fan of, I'm not pro one thing or anti another thing. I'm just what works and have a lot of tools. And I believe that it all works. The more tools you have, the more you can customize a plan to the person that you're looking at. And so I just find that that makes us hopefully a better, it just makes us more versatile, and it makes us super excited. So hello. Anyway, so I hope this has been enjoy. You've learned something today, and if you have questions, never hesitate to let us know. Tomorrow we are totally going to talk about oral sex and herpes and HPV, and I think that is really cool because let me tell you, okay, so when you're in residency, there's some questions I've learned as I've gone along that no one taught me, and I had to figure out. And, you know, I went to medical school, residency, blah, blah, blah. So if no staff is telling me this when I was in residency, then I think a lot of people might have those questions. I was just afraid to ask. One of the questions that's coming to mind as we sit here is when I was pregnant with my first son, I was doing a colposcopy and I looked down on my shirt and lo and behold, one breast had a spot and the other one did not. And I was like, when did I get vinegar on my nipple? That was so weird. And so that being said, I realized I'm like, no, you can get unilateral breast discharge where you start having milk come out of your breast at like 18 to 20 weeks. But gosh, love it. I swore I was worried I had breast cancer. I was pregnant with my son. This is not normal because the book didn't tell me that was normal. So if anyone's ever had that happen, it's normal. Anyway, stay tuned for tomorrow. I don't think there will be a gargantuous snowstorm on my way to Iowa, so I won't fear for my life for the 2 hours before I talk about the vagina and Han Solo. No, we're going to talk about herpes and HPV and stuff like that. But it'll be brief, but yet it'll be fun. And I'll see whatever thoughts come to my mind as I drive down the road to that beautiful state of IOWA. So anyway, I hope you've had a great afternoon. I'm sorry we're a little off schedule for this. But again, it was just because that patient yesterday needed a little bit of time. And we're just here to help people where they're at. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you have a great day. If you have any other suggestions, thoughts, or questions as what we can do to help make the world be a better place or subjects you want to talk about, you let me know. And otherwise, I'll see you in the morning or whenever you have time to tune back in. So bye-bye. I hope I can turn this off because I'm really challenged. Well, I'm not doing too good. Oh, finish.